Hello, everyone, and welcome to this last interview of the Awakening Your Divine Masculine, Empowering You to Live from the Heart retreat. Today, you have the pleasure of meeting the visionary and your lovely host behind this retreat and to hear about her journey with the Divine Masculine. Welcome, Georgie Garwood.
Hi, Evelyn.
Hi,
Lovely to be with
Georgie.
you. Lovely to be with you as always.
Wonderful to have this conversation with you and to show the viewers who you really are in essence. So let's talk about your whole retreat. What brought you to creating such an amazing retreat and such a much needed retreat?
Well, it all started with a shamanic journey that I took on a medicine training course. And I went to find my medicine woman. And when I found her, I was shown her, and she was quite a feisty female. She was walking through an encampment, very dusty encampment, and there were women and children crying all around her, and these were her people. And she felt very protective over them and wanted to, find out, what was going on, and she wanted to free them and find their captor really and find out what was going on. So I was in the body by this point, actually walking up, and I could see my feet. So I walked up into this, I suppose it was either a yurt or a tent, and walked through the curtains and into this place where the chief or whoever he was who captured us was seated with all his guys and minions around him. And I walked straight up to him, with loads of bravery and courage. And I just said, why are you doing this? We're all innocent, and you don't need us. We're just women and children. You've taken the men, you've killed the men. And he just slammed his fists on the table and said, how dare you? And then he proceeded to attack me. Well, he was trying to rape me. And he proceeded, and each time I said to him 3 times, you need to stop. You really do need to stop. I'm warning you, you need to stop. And on the 3rd time of saying that, he lurched backwards, holding his hand on his heart, and went backwards. So he was having a heart attack. So then I quickly said to the guys around who were standing there that were support his servants, if you like, I said, lie him on the couch. So they lay him on the couch. They put all these kind of hides and skins over him to cover him up. And I just started to stand over him and sort of do these incantations and sign language and whatever I was doing, pulling this power through him or whatever it was. And I was doing this for about 15 minutes, and then I was looking at him, and then his eyes were previously closed, so he was out cold. And then after about 15 minutes, his eyes just burst open, and the look in them was pure love, pure kind of unconditional love. It wasn't, he didn't fancy me or anything like that. It was pure love. He basically had seen the light. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. So that was the end of it. So I came back from the journey and started to journal, because I always journal after I've been on anything like this. And I was told by my guides that I needed to do a retreat for men. And I was like, oh no, I can't do a retreat for men. That's out of my comfort zone. I just don't want to do that, and that's not because I've got any problems with men at all. I haven't. I was raised, the thing for me, I guess, is I was raised in a slightly unbalanced situation with the masculine and the feminine. So I was raised with 2 other sisters. I was raised in a convent school, went to school in a convent school. We weren't allowed to see guys. So men became these kind of people that you put on a pedestal,
Mm-hmm.
They were idols or to be seen, as
Not as equals.
not as equals, very separate, and purely just for husband purposes, having a family with, that kind of thing. There was this missing link, the friendship link, and the seeing them as equals, and the collaboration, the working together thing was completely missing. And so I was called back to it. I've been avoiding it for a really long time. And called back to it, and it was really, really it was just a light bulb moment for me, really, you know. And I spoke to Tim about it privately, and also other chaps as well, and realized that I'd had this kind of weird relationship with guys where I either was sort of, I always held them away from me because they were potentially going to try to seduce me in a weird way. Does that make sense? So then I suddenly realized that, you know, that's not the case. You know, we're all human and we're all here to try to get through this situation that we're in. And there's the programming that's happened to both sexes is extraordinary. And the men, their programming has been really hard, you know, and there's been a lot of focus on the divine feminine over the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years potentially. Real focus where the men have been completely left out and blamed for everything that's gone wrong. Yep. When what's actually happened is the powers that were, and I'm going to say the powers that were because they are on their way out, and I fully believe that, the powers that put this patriarchal programming in well over 2,000 years ago. And this has meant that men have been put in this warrior status, whatever you want to call it, this pedestal status where they have to bring in the money, look after the family. Women do as they're told and have the children. There's this, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I believe we're right in those roles anyway, but it was more like this. So there wasn't the balance. The women weren't honored for raising the children and being that part of life. They were put down in that role, and the men were completely expected to bring the money in and to fight the wars. And of course, some men can cope with that, but it made them very hard. And other men just literally couldn't cope with it because their natures were extremely sensitive. And so there was no tolerance of men's sensitivity and the fact that they have emotions. You know, they were regarded as these, you know, hard characters. Boys don't cry, don't show your emotions, stay strong for the women, and all of this stuff. And actually, that's just driven the wedge between men and women further. And men are coming back. You know, they are giving themselves permission to come back to their emotions. But this was very much a retreat for them and for the women who are in their lives as well, and for women themselves, for that masculine healing that is going on within them too.
It's so beautiful. You know, it feels like you are realigning the balance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So how we've been programmed to live is not our truth. And now you're bringing out the truth of the divine masculine within the men, but also within the women. And it feels like you're really honoring them. And so many of us, so many women have been, as you said, you know, projecting their pain, their fears, their demands, and treating them as inferior, as women also have been. But of course, this is a conversation about awakening the divine masculine. So it's wonderful. And I know in one of your in your welcome email, you said, you know, we're drawing the men out of the shadow. So yes, I really honor you for doing that. And I think a lot of men will be very grateful to you that they are being seen, because it's so important to be seen and to be honored for who you really are.
Yeah, it makes me feel really emotional just thinking about that. And I was just shown a vision of you know, taking his hand and bringing him out of the shadows and then dancing together. There's a film called Knight's Tale, and that sort of kind of, I can see that kind of whirling around and dancing together, weaving the two things together, the divine feminine and divine masculine together.
Beautiful. And that's how it should be. That's what we're
honoring each other.
Exactly. That's
honoring each other
towards. Yeah.
Honoring our differences as well, you know. I am a female. You know, I don't want to lift a huge Hey, excuse me, go and get a guy that's good at doing that, one of your friends to do that. I don't want to do that anymore. You know, I've been raised like a boy in the nicest possible way. I was raised on a farm. I was the eldest daughter. I was a farmer. I had to make decisions, which was fine, tough decisions sometimes. I had to toughen up. I had to experience life and death, animals dying, animals living, crops failing, whatever, money going, you know, putting, you know, getting the money on the table. I have been in that role as well. And the problem is with a woman that's in that role and then this very strong mode is it's very emasculating for her partner. And I feel that that was something that my first husband had to experience with me, sadly, you know, this emasculation by me being this superwoman and being able to do absolutely everything. And as I described to you before, there was this part when it was at its worst, there literally was, just for an instance, a bit of a ball breaking bitch. And I don't like that, obviously don't like that side. But you know, I was raised by a dad who and I love my dad, and he raised us right up. He lifted us up to be strong women. He loved Maggie Thatcher, who was a UK politician, and he wanted women to not be pushed down. So he was great for that. But then it went a little bit kind of the other way, you know. And no man was good enough unless he was at this ball breaking hard thing going on as well. So there was no room for the balance there, you know. My first husband was very gentle soul, but that wasn't honored. That wasn't seen. That was seen as weak in my family. So, you know, and we've had conversations since then, and you know, I've apologized for what he had to go through, but that was part of his learning as well. And, you know, we're all good now. We all have a laugh, and we're all good mates, you know, all of us, the four of us, if you like, and all the children, all the different children, the large group of children now that's accumulated from the blended families. But yes, it's all good.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you know, we see so many women that are trying to achieve something become these bitches, and they're not in tune with their divine feminine because I think they have to be the men to in order to be part of the game. But actually, if the women tune into their divine feminine and allow the men to be in their divine masculine, that's where you have a beautiful balance and there's no competition. It's just being, everybody's allowed to be as they're supposed to be. And that's just a learning process. But you mentioned you went from bowl breaking bitch to fluffy doormat. So you went from one extreme to the other. So that was your journey, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And with some of the coding that's in my soul blueprint, there is a tendency to go from one extreme to another, to find the middle ground. And I've always done this with everything, whether it be diet, whether it be exercise, whether it be lifestyle, whatever, gone from one extreme to the other to come back to the middle. So I went to Fluffy Doormat, living in La La Land. You know, oh, life's wonderful, everybody's beautiful, everybody's lovely, not seeing, you know, spiritual bypassing the deep stuff, the dark stuff that's going on that we needed to be made aware of in order to be sovereign beings. Completely missed that, you know, completely, oh, la 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 la, everybody's beautiful, butterflies and angels. And I'm not saying this, you know, I love angels, you know I do, but there's some bull breaking angels too, or some hard angels too. There's some warrior angels, but it was very fluffy and very pink and, you know, happy and light. And I am very happy and light, but I'm also very grounded and real. And I think we have to, for me, the relationship I've got now is with somebody that grounds me, and I need grounding, you know, to be feet on the ground, feeling the earth, being real, being practical, as well as being creative and visionary. It's just blending the two together, and that's really almost like the masculine and feminine. So I see the masculine, divine masculine, is very grounded, very rooted, anchoring her her creativity and vision into the earth plane, and a healthy.
And that's what your husband is doing, isn't it? I mean, you're holding a joint vision together for your lives. You're building a retreat, a physical retreat in Devon, where you're living, and he's doing the physical structures. He's creating the space, and you're bringing in the spiritual part with all your beautiful talents as the intuitive coach and oracle and soul purpose activator you are, and you're both holding this beautiful joint mission together and having a very, what it sounds like, a very balanced relationship. Of course, no relationship is perfect because we're all learning and growing more in self-love. But you told me previously that Phil is your rock of support,
Yeah.
and that he's the one who grounds you, and you bring out the divine feminine in him as well by allowing him to express his feelings. And I think when we talk about relationships, I think we are heading in a direction where we're allowed to honor the sacredness of relationship. Again, coming to that idea of honoring the other, seeing the other exactly as they are and not how we want them to be.
Absolutely. And seeing them, as they are, and not putting our needs onto them, as in the needs that we want them to be spiritual. He's got to be spiritual because I am. And why isn't he spiritual? Why isn't he waking up? But he's waking up, and he has woken up in his own ways. Definitely 100%. He's definitely a sovereign being, and has made choices in that direction. When it comes to self-love and love, I think a lot of men are having to work through that process at the moment. They haven't been allowed to love themselves, really. So yeah, it feels quite strange, I think, and I know for myself, when I went through that process of maybe looking in the mirror and saying I love you, it's like, oh no, thank you. That was a few years ago. But I know some men are going through that process now, and it is a step-by-step process, starting off with I like you in the mirror and starting to embrace that.
Yeah, yes.
Once they fully love themselves, in not in an ego way, but just in a very humble, loving, with the Christ consciousness values. If they love themselves that way, then they're able to love somebody else unconditionally without judgment. So it's dropping this need for having the perfect partner, the perfect figure, the perfect partner. Both of us, all of us, looking at, she's got to have this, and this. Oh, why she got a bit of a tummy? All of that business. People need to be, women and men need to be respected for who they are. We're all trying to manage in this life, and we have to learn where the boundaries are as well with that, because if we're putting our ideals onto our partner, we're overstepping the boundaries. So that's important. And that's back to the respect and the honoring again.
Mm-hmm. And also not to practice any judgment, right? Because we all are so keen to judge.
Absolutely.
And it all comes back to loving ourselves, because we're the ones who judge ourselves the most. So when we're kind to ourselves, then we can be kind to our partners and everyone around. So Georgie, you're going to be teaching about sacred relationships in a upcoming masterclass, because this is your free gift for your audience of the retreat. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so what we'll be doing is we'll be looking at each role of the masculine and the feminine. And this is within ourselves, as well as in our partnerships and our relationships, and that's in all relationships, of course. So what we're going to be looking at is those different roles, and then within us and also in our relationships. And then we're going to be looking how the soul blueprint or the soul plan works with relationships. So from a soul blueprint, you can see the joint mission or the joint plan, what the two people are wanting to work through together as a couple. So this will have been pre-agreed in the pre-life contract and in the soul plan. So each partner that we've had, there will have been this soul contract with different aspects to work through in order for each of us to grow, and which obviously helps with that ascension process. So the relationships we're in are helping us to ascend, in short. And so it's noticing the themes that are running through. There's always like 3 or 4 themes that run through these different through the blueprints that you can see within the relationship. And it really helps to pull these themes out, because people can then see what they need to be working on together as a couple, and also for themselves individually. And also it's wonderful when you realize a vision or a mission together, and what you're aiming to be doing. It's very, what's the word? I don't want to say binding, but that sounds like you're being tied together. What I'm saying is it's very
unifying.
Unifying. Thank you, Evelyn. Unifying. It's extremely unifying once you acknowledge what you're here to be doing together, as well as having fun and experiencing joy in life. And reminding us, all of us need to be reminded of that, that this isn't us ticking all the boxes off and all of that stuff. It's about actually experiencing life in the moment. And that's where the feminine comes in, because she can bring that to him when she's in her feminine, and she's not joining it, and she's not joining him in the masculine within the action. She can then hold him and just allow him to breathe and just come back to his heart space, just for some seconds. It doesn't take long. And then they just change they stop the hamster wheel thing just for a second. And then it just realigns everything.
Oh, sounds like a wonderful masterclass. And there's something special about this masterclass. If you sign up for this free gift, you have the chance to win a free relationship reading with Georgie.
Yes, and we'll be announcing the winner at the end of the masterclass.
Exactly. Yeah. So sign up for this free gift, and hopefully you can win that free relationship reading. Thank you so much, Georgie, for this enlightening conversation. And I wish you all the best with your retreat and with your masterclass. And yes, viewers, there you have it. We've had all our interviews. We've reached the end of the retreat. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we wish you a beautiful day.